My name is Dan Parisi, and I'm a senior partner at BTS, and I lead the global business simulation practice. The focus of this presentation is to explore the history of adult learning and how learning has evolved across many human endeavors. We will see how traditional approaches to learning fall short when it comes to environments that are high stakes and high risk. By the end of this presentation, you'll also understand why experiential learning and simulations are the best way for adults to learn in a business environment. Our story begins in monasteries in Europe in the Middle Ages. Monasteries preserved learning and literacy in the era before the printing press and the printed book. This painting is actually a fresco on the wall of a monastery painted in the early 1400s, and it depicts a style of learning that likely looks very familiar to us today, hundreds of years later. This is what was originally called the lecture scribe method, where the teacher in this case reads from a text, and the students or the monks will write down the lecture word for word. The teacher lectured and the monks scribed. Before the printing press, this was often how new books and manuscripts were created. And if you listened to an expert and you wrote down everything he or she said, you would actually learn something about the topic. Funnily enough, this fresco painted in the 1400s captures some of the shortcomings of the lecture scribe approach. Take a look at the engagement level of several of the students. These two are having a conversation. This guy somehow looks like he's checking his phone, and this poor guy, he's asleep. For over 500 years, the lecture scribe approach is the unchallenged dominant paradigm. It literally went global, migrating from monasteries to universities and colleges all over the world, until an important invention comes along in 1890 at Harvard Law School. The inventor is a Harvard Law professor with the peculiar name of Christopher Columbus Langdell. In 1890, after humanity is subjected to a solid 500 years of the lecture scribe approach, Professor Langdell invents the case study, which brings an accurate summary of a historical event into the classroom for a more open and collaborative discussion. The learning is now more practical and less theoretical because of the use of real-world examples or cases. The case study approach catches on and is adopted in all professional schools like law, medicine, and business, and then spreads into many undergraduate colleges. Decades pass before the next revolution in adult learning, and this time, it doesn't come from the university system. Fun fact, there has not been a major innovation from universities on how adults learn since the case study in 1890. In the 1920s, an emerging aviation industry is desperately in need of a new approach to teach pilots. Tragically, too many young people were dying and too many expensive planes were being lost during the training of future pilots. You can't use the lecture scribe approach to teach flight theory and then put a new pilot in a plane and say, okay, now try flying. So some enterprising flight instructors invented a very rudimentary airplane cockpit simulation. It was basic, it was crude, and it worked. Flight simulators allowing for high-fidelity, real-world practice immediately saved lives, saved equipment, and reduced risk. Once again, decades pass until another profession that deals with high-stakes, high-risk skills creates the Harvey Human Medical Simulator in 1968. Now, medical residents can test new skills, they can make medical mistakes in a safe environment, not on fellow living, breathing human beings. In both aviation and medicine, simulations were created to train people in high-stakes, high-risk skills where practice in a safe environment increased performance in the real world. Outside of aviation and medicine, can you think of another industry where the stakes are high, the risks are high, and practice in a safe environment would increase performance? That's right, you guessed it. The next innovation in adult learning occurs in 1986 with the BTS business simulation. As any manager would attest, whether you're a business executive leading a multi-million-dollar business or the head of a functional area, the impact of poor business decisions on people, jobs, and capital can be devastating. We can see this in business headlines every day. So at BTS nearly 4 decades ago, we innovated a simulation methodology that allows managers and leaders to practice making business decisions in a safe environment, to test cause and effect, to understand the broader perspective of how value is created or lost in a business. For the first time, simulations were being used to improve business decision-making. And since business is a team sport, many of our simulations allow cross-functional teams to practice making complex decisions together in pursuit of sustainable growth. When you look at these 4 groups of people, what do they all have in common? Well, first, they're all under enormous pressure to perform. Second, what they all have in common is tremendous amounts of practice in order to be successful. They all rehearse, they drill, they practice, They simulate real-world conditions so they can increase performance. What about in your business environment? I assume your business is also high stakes, a high-risk environment, and I assume that there are complex skills and tasks, often executed by teams. I assume that your business is also interested in high performance. So what's the practice to performance ratio in your business? How much time do your people spend practicing versus performing? When I ask this question to CEOs, I often hear crickets. Now, I'm not saying companies need to start practicing 6 days a week like pro sports teams, but if we have learned anything from these other domains interested in high performance, it's time to leverage what 500 years of adult learning evolution has culminated in. Just like the domains of sports, aviation, medicine, the military, and the performing arts, there are no shortcuts to higher performance in business. Practice in a safe environment, simulation, increases performance, and makes for better business leaders and better people managers. The BTS family of business simulations allows leaders in any business to increase performance through practice and simulation. Whether it's having cross-functional teams of VPs running your entire strategy into the future, or general managers leading a business unit to balance growth and profitability, or a team of middle managers practicing how to lead a new process, or managers learning how to give feedback to direct reports, or hiring managers putting candidates through a day-in-the-life simulation. Whatever type of business simulation our clients are using, they are preparing leaders and managers to make better decisions, especially when it's a high-stakes environment, where the risk is high, where complex tasks are being performed by teams, where practice is required, and high performance is expected. It's time for businesses everywhere to let go of old approaches to building new skills and embrace the power of simulations to make better leaders and get better business results.